The Imjin War, also known as the Japanese invasions of Korea from 1592 to 1598, was a significant conflict that drew in multiple East Asian powers, primarily involving Korea, Japan, and China. The war saw large-scale battles, considerable destruction, and profound geopolitical shifts in the region. One intriguing but controversial topic is the alleged involvement of Thai mercenaries in the Imjin War. While this idea has piqued the interest of historians and enthusiasts alike, the historical evidence supporting this claim is scant and highly debated. To understand the context of the Imjin War, it is essential to delve into the background of the primary belligerents. The conflict began in 1592 when Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the Japanese military leader who had unified Japan, launched an ambitious invasion of the Korean peninsula. Hideyoshi's goal was not only to conquer Korea but also to use it as a springboard for further campaigns into China and potentially beyond. The initial invasion was met with fierce resistance from Korean forces, and the war soon expanded as the Ming dynasty of China intervened to aid Korea under the terms of their tributary relationship. The war was characterized by brutal fighting, extensive use of naval power, and significant civilian casualties. Korean naval forces, under the command of Admiral Yi Sun-sin, played a crucial role in thwarting Japanese supply lines and securing the seas. Meanwhile, land battles saw fluctuating fortunes for both sides, with notable engagements such as the Siege of Busan and the Battle of Noryang Point. Amidst this intense conflict, the question arises, were there Thai mercenaries involved in the Imjin War? To explore this possibility, it is crucial to examine the historical context of Southeast Asia during this period, particularly the Kingdom of Ayutthaya, which existed in present-day Thailand. The Kingdom of Ayutthaya was a powerful and influential state during the late 16th century, known for its robust trade networks and diplomatic relations with various Asian and European powers. Ayutthaya's strategic location along major maritime routes facilitated extensive interactions with other states, including Japan and China. These connections were primarily commercial, focusing on the exchange of goods such as spices, silks, and other luxury items. Ayutthaya's military expeditions were typically aimed at regional conflicts within Southeast Asia rather than distant wars in Northeast Asia. Examining the primary sources and historical records from the Imjin War provides insight into the involvement of various forces. Korean sources, such as the Annals of the Joseon dynasty, offer detailed accounts of the war from the Korean perspective, highlighting the contributions of Korean soldiers, the strategies employed by commanders, and the significant aid provided by the Ming dynasty. Japanese sources like the Chronicles of the Great Peace document the ambitions of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the organization of Japanese military campaigns, and the challenges faced by Japanese forces during the protracted conflict. Chinese records focus on the Ming dynasty's intervention, logistical support, and the broader strategic implications of the war. These primary sources do not mention the involvement of Thai mercenaries. The detailed accounts focus primarily on the actions of the main belligerents and their immediate allies. The absence of references to Thai fighters suggests that if there were any involvement, it was not significant enough to be recorded in the major historical chronicles of the time. Moreover, historical records from the Kingdom of Ayutthaya do not provide evidence of participation in the Imjin War. The Ayutthayan chronicles of the late 16th century concentrate on domestic affairs, trade, and interactions with neighboring states in Southeast Asia. There is no mention of military expeditions to Korea or involvement in conflicts far beyond their usual sphere of influence. It is important to consider the logistical and geopolitical challenges that would have been involved in such participation. The geographical distance between Ayutthaya and Korea is substantial, and deploying troops or mercenaries to such a distant theater of war would have required significant resources and motivation. Ayutthaya's focus during this period was primarily on consolidating power within its region and maintaining its commercial networks, rather than engaging in distant wars. The notion of Thai mercenaries in the Imjin War might also be influenced by later historical interpretations or fictionalized accounts. In modern times, historical fiction, movies, and popular culture have sometimes depicted exotic or less documented aspects of historical events, which can blur the lines between fact and fiction. These portrayals can create enduring myths or misconceptions about historical events, leading to the perpetuation of stories that lack solid evidence. Additionally, it is possible that individuals or small groups from Southeast Asia could have found their way into the conflict, possibly as traders or adventurers who became involved in the fighting. The maritime routes of the time were extensive and facilitated a degree of movement that could lead to such encounters. However, the presence of a few individuals would not constitute significant mercenary involvement, and would unlikely be recorded in major historical accounts. The concept of mercenary involvement itself is worth exploring. Mercenaries, or professional soldiers hired to serve in foreign armies, have been a part of military history for centuries. They often provided critical support in various conflicts, driven by the promise of payment and adventure. In the context of the Imjin War, however, the primary sources emphasize the roles of state-sponsored military forces, rather than independent mercenaries. The large-scale mobilization of Korean, Japanese, and Chinese troops was coordinated by their respective governments, focusing on national or dynastic interests, rather than the involvement of foreign mercenaries. To summarize, while the idea of Thai mercenaries participating in the Imjin War is intriguing, there is no substantial historical evidence to support this claim. The primary sources from Korea, Japan, and China, as well as the regional histories of Southeast Asia, do not document such involvement. The Imjin War remains a conflict primarily involving Korean, Japanese and Chinese forces, with the contributions and sacrifices of these nations well documented in historical records. Understanding the nature of historical evidence and the challenges of interpreting events from centuries past is crucial in this context. Historians rely on primary sources, archaeological findings, and corroborative accounts to construct narratives about the past. The absence of evidence does not necessarily prove non-involvement, but it does make it difficult to substantiate claims without supporting documentation. The Imjin War's historical significance lies in its demonstration of the complex interplay of regional powers, the impact of military technology and strategy, and the profound effects of warfare on societies. While the notion of Thai mercenaries adds an element of mystery and global interconnectedness to the story, the current historical record does not support their involvement in this particular conflict. Instead, the focus remains on the documented actions and experiences of the Korean, Japanese, and Chinese forces that shaped the course of the war and its aftermath.